unlock your world one word at a time, because language isn't just about learning, it's about living. Let's get started. My wonderful listeners, welcome back to another deeply personal and thought-provoking episode of the Languages Pedagogy Podcast. Today we're starting different because we're tackling a topic that is as raw as it's real. A topic that often goes unnoticed, yet profoundly affects the lives of countless educators around the world. The emotional toll of nativism. Stories from non-native teachers. This episode is not just a conversation. It's a journey into the hearts and minds of non-native teachers who have faced discrimination, stereotyping, and rejection because of where they come from, how they sound, or how they're perceived. We'll hear their stories, raw and unfiltered, and reflect on the systemic biases that create an unequal playing field for these passionate educators. But this isn't just about recounting struggles. It's about understanding the resilience, strength, and dedication that non-native teachers bring to the table despite the challenges. By the end of this episode, my hope is that we'll not only empathize with their experiences, but also feel inspired to advocate for change. So, grab your favorite drink, find a comfortable place, and let's embark on this emotionally charged journey together. Let's get started.
Audio Jungle.
And let's start by asking a simple yet powerful question. What does it mean to be a teacher? Well, for sure all of you know, right? At its core, teaching is about connection. It's about guiding, inspiring, and empowering students to reach their full potential. Yet for many non-native teachers, this noble profession comes with a shadow. A shadow cast by prejudice, stereotypes, and deeply ingrained biases that undermine their credibility and value. One of the most pervasive forms of bias is nativism. The idea that being a native speaker of a language automatically makes someone a better teacher. This belief is not just flawed, it's harmful. It creates barriers for highly qualified, passionate non-native teachers and reinforces the idea that their knowledge and skills are somehow less than their native-speaking counterparts. But what does this look like in practice? How does nativism manifest in the lives of non-native teachers? To answer that, let's hear from the voices that matter most, the teachers themselves. And let's start with the first experience here. Maria, who's a friend of mine, is an English teacher from Brazil with over 15 years of experience. She holds a master's degree in applied linguistics, a CELTA certification, and has presented at international conferences on language teaching methodology. Yet, despite her impressive qualifications, Maria has faced rejection after rejection from schools in Europe and Asia. One school in Japan explicitly told her, "We only hire native speakers from the US, UK, Canada, or Australia. Your English is excellent, but our students expect a native accent." Maria recalls this moment vividly. She said, and I quote, "I felt humiliated. I had spent years perfecting my teaching skills, building my expertise, and contributing to the field of language education. But none of that mattered because of my passport." This rejection wasn't just a professional setback. It was a deeply personal wound. Maria began questioning her self-worth. her abilities, and even her identity as a teacher. With the second experience now, Hamid from Egypt. Hamid, a non-native Arabic and English teacher, had a similar experience. Despite being fluent in both languages and holding a PhD in education, he found it nearly impossible to secure teaching positions outside the Middle East. In one particularly painful instance, a school in France prized his teaching demo but rejected his application, stating, and I quote, "We think our students would be more comfortable with a teacher who has a British or American background." Hamid told me, it wasn't just about the rejection, it was about the message they were sending. They were telling me that my identity, my culture, and my voice were not good enough. These stories are not isolated incidents. They are part of a larger pattern of systemic bias that takes a heavy psychological toll on non-native teachers. Let's unpack what this toll looks like. 1. Imposter syndrome. Many non-native teachers internalize the bias they face, leading to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. They begin to question whether they are good enough, even when they have the qualifications and experience to prove otherwise. 2. Emotional burnout. Constantly having to prove themselves, whether to employers, students, or even colleagues, leaves many non-native teachers emotionally drained. The pressure to perform at an impossibly high standard takes its toll over time. 3. Loss of passion. For some teachers, the discrimination they face dampens their passion for teaching. What once felt like a calling begins to feel like an uphill battle against prejudice and rejection. But here's the thing. Non-native teachers are not just victims of this bias. They are also some of the most resilient, resourceful, and innovative educators in the field. And our next story here is Elena, a Russian teacher of English, decided to turn her pain into purpose. After being rejected from multiple positions in Western Europe, she launched her own online teaching platform, where she works with students from around the world. Elena just shared, "At first, I felt like giving up, but then I realized that my value as a teacher isn't defined by someone else's bias. It's defined by the impact I have on my students." Beautiful, huh? Today, Elena has over 500 students and has created a supportive community where non-native teachers can thrive. Why does this bias persist? To understand the roots of nativism, we need to examine the broader social and cultural factors to play. And we just talked about this in previous episode. The myth of the native speaker. For decades, language education has been dominated by the belief that native accents and fluency are the ultimate goals. This myth creates unrealistic expectations for both teachers and learners. Another one, the market demand. Parents and students in many countries have been conditioned to equate native speakers with quality education. Schools cater to this demand, reinforcing the cycle of bias. And also, lack of awareness. Many hiring managers and institutions are simply unaware of the harm caused by their policies. They fail to recognize that teaching is about methodology, not nationality. So, what can we do to challenge these biases and create a more inclusive, equitable landscape for non-native teachers? Let's have a call to action. For schools and institutions, revise hiring practices to prioritize qualifications, experience, and teaching ability over nationality or accent. Provide training on unconscious bias to hiring managers and staff. Another one, for students and parents, challenge your own assumptions about what makes a good teacher here. Focus on the teacher's ability to connect, guide, and inspire, not their accent or passport. Another one, for non-native teachers, embrace your unique strengths. Your journey as a language learner gives you a perspective and empathy that many native speakers lack. Build supportive networks and advocates for yourself and others in your community. For the global education community, what can I say? Amplify the voices of non-native teachers. Share their stories. Celebrate their contribution and push for systemic change. And as we close this deeply reflective episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Every teacher's voice matters. Every teacher's story matters. And every teacher has the power to make a difference. And before we head into the final part of this really deep episode, I hope you enjoy it. And I just want to remind you that new episodes drop every Monday and Friday. So make sure to tune in weekly for your dose of thought-provoking conversations. You can find our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can also pay a visit to our website, MikeEnglishOnline.com, where you will find tons of resources for your daily learning or teaching. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and follow us for more. And well, thank you for joining me today. Whether you're a teacher, a student, or simply someone who believes in fairness and equity, I hope this episode has inspired you to think differently, challenge biases, and advocate for change. Until next time, stay compassionate, stay curious, and remember, the strength of a teacher lies not in their accent, but in their passion, dedication, and heart.